friends, Christy Teji here, your host for the Productive Passions podcast. Let me ask you, is there something different you dream of doing but don't know where to begin? If you're feeling suffocated, anxious, or you feel there's something different calling you, come along with me for candid conversations with people who have embarked on a journey to put their passions to work for them. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Life is too short to stay stuck. Hi, friends. In today's episode, I have the privilege of speaking with Claudiu Hidas, the visionary CEO of Munevo. I'd say rare privilege, but you'll soon see Claudiu is extremely generous with his time, from helping not so tech-savvy people like myself understand the work of Munevo, to educating and inspiring individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds. He spends his days in service to others. As CEO, he leads a team that is transforming the lives of many by pushing the boundaries of technology to empower people with physical limitations. Under his leadership, Munevo is dedicated to fostering self-determination, promoting diversity and inclusion, and building a supportive community. Talk about a company making a difference. At Munevo, the mission is clear: to shape a future where physical limitations no longer equate to limited prospects. Through cutting-edge innovation, Claudiu and his team are ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to live a full, self-determined life. Claudiu is not only a brilliant mind, but also a kind heart, deeply invested in the success and well-being of others. What makes him so successful and fulfilled? Here are just a few takeaways he shares. Get ready to take notes. Always be willing to encourage and support others in their quest to explore new opportunities and bring fresh ideas to light. This not only fosters innovation, but also builds a culture of mutual growth and inspiration. Maintaining connections with individuals who have come into your life or career can significantly impact your future and the future of your business. These relationships can provide support, opportunities, and valuable insights that might be pivotal at various stages of your journey. Volunteering your time and expertise could be a powerful form of mentoring. By helping others achieve their aspirations, you contribute to their success and create a ripple effect of positive change. Your guidance and support could be the key to someone reaching heights they may not have achieved on their own. These takeaways highlight the importance of community, mentorship, and the power of maintaining strong, supportive relationships throughout one's personal and professional life. Listen in as we join Claudiu's journey exploring the groundbreaking work being done at Munevo and discuss how technology can be a force for true equality. Whether you're passionate about tech, innovation, or social impact, Claudiu is sure to inspire and motivate. Let's get started. Claudiu, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to have you as a guest on Productive Passions. I want to hear a little bit from you what you do. I know that you are the founder and CEO of a company that I have admired for several years now since I met you, Munevo. Can you tell me a little bit more about who you are and what the company does?
Yeah, sure. So Munevo was founded 2018. We're an assistive technology company from Germany and now also in the US. And what we do is we provide assistive technology based on smart glasses. Our first solution is a power wheelchair control, alternative drive control that uses the integrated sensors of a smart glass and allows people that cannot move their hands to use a normal joystick to drive their power wheelchair using head motions, as opposed to, or as an alternative to, the mostly mechanical solutions that you found these days that are based on buttons on joysticks placed in front of the face of the people.
Now, let me understand this correctly. You said glasses that control,
Yes.
Like glasses? So
Glasses.
Glasses are controlling the wheelchair. So I want to ask you how that works, but I don't understand the technology. But how does that work?
Sure. So there are nowadays a lot of smart glasses out there. They are usually now, well, we've seen a lot of like virtual reality glasses. Now we're seeing augmented reality glasses. And smart glasses is somewhat in between, but there's more and more technology coming out there that will impact a lot of people's lives. The smart glasses that we use have integrated sensors, and those sensors you can also find in your phones these days. It's a gyroscope or accelerometer that can track the position, the velocity, and much more. And so we use those exact same sensors to track the position of the head and the movements of the head. Before, when you would have somebody that cannot use their hands and you build buttons around the head, they would push against those buttons using their head motions as well. Now you don't push against any buttons anymore because you just wear your pair of smart glasses and then you just move your head in the free space and can use those movements as well to drive your wheelchair.
So for individuals with limited head control, does that still work for them?
Good question. Yes, it does. And that's actually part of our secret sauce because we built in we call it calibration. It takes 15 seconds. So the people that sit in the wheelchair and oftentimes get positioned in the wheelchair differently or just slouch into their chairs, change position on a daily or hourly basis, usually the other solutions are fixed on the chair. So people don't reach them anymore. With the glasses, you wear them so you don't have that challenge. And the calibration gives you always access to calibrate it to your specific movements, to your specific position. And if you have limited head functions, we still can work with like 1 to 2 inch of movements in 3 directions. So it can be very, very sensitive. We actually did once a study with children, and there was one child that would only raise their eyebrows, and that could already be used as a calibration to drive the wheelchair forward. So it's very sensitive.
So on the opposite spectrum, what about an individual who may have tremors or movements, quick movements, or unintentional movements of their head? Does that make their wheelchair go all over the place?
It depends. So with some people that have tremors, the calibration can filter out those tremors. If somebody has, however, very random, fast, and very extended versions of like spasms, for example, then also for our solution right now, we have limitations, even though we hope that in the future with like AI and all of these things, like we will be able to provide a solution for that as well. Right now, we have a couple of people, for example, we have a small little girl. She's now probably already 9 years old and she has cerebral palsy. And she's moving a lot also with her hands and with her head. But like the calibration worked for her perfectly because we created like a filter around the wonky movements and she can do that. If she goes out of that range, she can control her wheelchair. So there's a video also on YouTube. I hope you can see it on our website that shows how it works.
We'll put a link to that in our show notes. When an individual who has limited ability to push themselves in a wheelchair has controls added, it takes a really long time to put those in. How long does it take to do all of that with your product?
Honestly, like it's really fast. The principle that we try to always follow is to make it as simple as possible for everyone involved. Obviously, the person in the chair will not put the control himself into the wheelchair, but like the therapists, the ATPs and so on need to do that by themselves. So we have 2 components, the smart glass that take only 15 seconds to calibrate and the user does it by him or herself. So that's out of the picture. But then to make the glasses connect to a wheelchair, we have a small adapter box that plugs into any standard power wheelchair module with a cable. And what we need to do right now is that the wheelchair needs to be programmed to understand proportional signals because we're not like a button that has switch signals. We use proportional signals. So it's very smooth also how to drive. But then if we compare ourselves right now, like it usually takes us 5 to 10 minutes to set it up. With the other buttons and joysticks and so on, it takes a while longer because you need to really position them in the exact position according to the seating position of the patient.
And you're talking about the other products, the joysticks and the head switches, et cetera, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
And if somebody is not positioned exactly right or changes position throughout the day, that could be an issue accessing those switches.
Yeah, even when people, they have to sit in a wheelchair for long periods of time, so they need to use recline functions or tilt functions to have not develop any pressure injuries because they're sitting in the same position for too long. So even then, when you change your seating position just to alleviate pressure, things are not in the same position where they should be, and that causes like challenges for getting back into the driving mode of your chair.
And so for people who don't understand wheelchairs or have not heard that before, what we're talking about are the positions of a wheelchair, which are not the same, but probably best described as like a recliner chair. You could put it back in a reclined position or what are called tilt and space chairs, which do exactly what you were talking about, help to reduce the pressure because people can get pressure injuries from sitting in the same position for too long. So when you change that, if you imagine going from sitting upright to laying down, then being able to access those switches and joysticks, et cetera, is a real challenge. So the glasses that you make are still there on their face, regardless of what position they're in. Now, will the glasses, can they control the tilt in space or recline function?
They do, yeah. They do all
Wow.
of these functions. So you have all access to all of your wheelchair functions. That's the main part. But even then, the second part that is integrated is that you can connect also to other devices. So the wheelchair is the first most important device. It's your mobility device. But then you use a phone. People use computers, laptops, smart home, TVs, door openers. So all of these things are also integrated in the glasses, and you can access them going to a specific menu, up to the point that we can connect to robotic arms. And this is something that is more available in Europe, but I've seen them now also in the US, where robotic arms are attached to the wheelchair and people can use those arms to grab a glass of water, push the button of an elevator, and do all sorts of things with it as well.
Claudiu, as an occupational therapist who has worked with people, all different kinds of people in wheelchairs, this really is emotional for me. It gives me goosebumps because this was not available when I was treating patients back in the mid 90s, early 2000s, all the way up till very recently. So can you tell me what are some of the reactions people have when they get these glasses and they put them on? So I'm curious about what their reaction is and then what their family's reactions are. And for anybody who can't see, you had the biggest smile on your face when I asked you that question.
Correct, because I just came back from a person that tried it out in Philadelphia right now, who was a veteran and who was using now for 2-3 years, I think, one of those chin joysticks. And he was really not happy. And then as soon as we put them on, he tried it out. You could already feel him loosening up more, regaining also more mobility in his head functions. But and then like when we wanted to leave, and he said like, how come you like what do you mean like you're leaving? What do you mean you're taking these off? Like that was not the deal. That's not what I came here for. So he was super happy and like wanted to keep using it and so on. And I think next to him was one of the caretakers, and she said like, no, he's taking them home. He's taking them home right now. Like you're not gonna get them off of his nose again. So that's why I'm laughing, because we had this experience right now. But in general, it's always amazement, always like curiosity, also because they still haven't even grasped like what else can be done. And then as soon as we go into detail and explain, phone, computer, robotic arm, and so on, they become really like mind blown. And it's always nice to see then the smiles and how the family also reacts, especially when we work with children. That's also really heartwarming, when you see them driving around. And kids are amazing. They get it, super, super fast, and they drive around as they've been doing it for all their life.
That's so exciting. I can only imagine having limitations of mobility limits so much. So now if you've got these glasses, it sounds to me like it opens up a whole new world for these individuals. And that's, man, that freedom for you and I, we know that it's just our everyday. But if you always have to depend on somebody to change your position and get from point A to point B, or sometimes your joystick doesn't work, or, things happen. But to be able to move about independently is a huge change. And it sounds so simplistic to say, I can't express it enough. From my perspective, as somebody who's worked with those people, I just can't even imagine that first experience. Pretty special,
That's true. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why we have an amazing team that went through ups and downs, but we have this always in our minds that like we want to put the people first. And actually a couple of people that we equipped in, I don't know what year it was, like probably 2020 or 2021 over in Europe, they now joined our team. So we have also 2 users in our team that are working in different departments of the company.
My guess is that's super valuable for the company, right? You get that user feedback immediately. Course. And probably for them, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but it would be exciting. You get to be one of the first beta testers of something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got to ask you why this. What brought you to working in this field and to put it in the technology in glasses?
Yep. So long story short, I was studying computer science and business at one of the technical universities of Munich, and we were given the technology, and our supervisors told us, like, be creative, do something with it. And so we had formed teams of 5 people. And also one of the teammates in my team, when he was 18, he did his civil service in a home for people with disabilities, where at that time he worked with a lot of people in wheelchairs. And already like 20 years ago, people were also using buttons, chin controls, chin joysticks, and so on. So this was the initial idea that we had, like, hey, could we use smart glass technology to drive wheelchairs? And my role in the team was to do customer discovery. So like interviewing people, talking to them, understanding their needs. And when I did that, I grew really close to the people, or like I grew close to their stories, people that were traveling the world and then suddenly couldn't do it anymore, but still had so much life and so much enjoyment. Then that for me, it was then simply clear that I need to, if this solution can really help people, I want to really bring this forward and try to help them as much as I can. So from that, I think I still have from the people that I initially interviewed, we are still in touch since many long years, and they're using also our technology. So everybody is amazed and super happy.
I love that. It's what I'm hearing is your college work. You started the company, but it's really where you developed an empathy, an understanding, and relationships with people who are in wheelchairs and who have mobility challenges. So Again, this company is built on empathy.
And not just that, it's built on the feedback of the people. So it's not that we sat in our, university, developed, and then like brought it out. It was always an iterative process where we developed something, showed it, got feedback, improved it, and did this over a couple of times. It's also, that's how actually we found out that, it's not just about the wheelchair, it's also about communication, computer, phone, all of these things. So on the journey of creating the solution, that's how it grew and became much more than just a wheelchair control system. It's now like a platform, assistive technology platform that can do much more than that.
That is incredible. I love to hear how it continues to grow. I'm excited about what the future holds for you and for the individuals who get to use your technology. Let me ask you a little bit about you. Where are you originally from, and how did you end up where you are now?
I was born in Romania. My mom and my dad are from Romania. When I was 5, they separated, and my mom took me and my brother to Germany. So we migrated to Germany in the south of Germany. My dad now also went outside of Romania. It was just after the revolution, after all the things went really bad in there. So both my parents wanted to build their life somewhere else and then give, their children some more opportunities. So then I was in Germany, grew up there in the south, went to high school and then went to college in Munich. And from then on, the whole story started with Munevo. So I have a background in computer science and business. Initially, when we started, I was still doing some software development. But as soon as my CTO came on board and he has a pure computer science background, I slowly also evolved more into the business world where I'm taking care of all business, marketing, and financial things.
So you played a lot of roles within your company.
Yeah.
Even salesmen, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And for people that don't know, there's a lot that has to happen to make a product available. You have to demonstrate its efficacy, safe use. There are lots of permissions and requirements that you have to follow. How long did all of that take you?
That's a really good question. I think it's ever also evolving, right? So we don't stop. But in order to get a solution, a DME or a medical device to market, it took us around about a year or even more so than a year. And then regulatory processes, norms, standards also evolve over time. So you need to always make sure that you're on top of things and are always updated. Just in Europe, there was a big change from the regulatory pathway from an old standard or old norm to a new norm that caused a lot of challenges for other manufacturers. What we did right from the beginning, because you mentioned safety, efficacy, and all of that, we were very interested from the beginning in doing also clinical research, which was not mandatory at that time. But our intuition somehow told us we need to do this straight and right from the beginning. So we did a full-fledged clinical study back in 2018 that helped us now with actually the transition into this new standard, which is now making clinical research mandatory for specific tests and safety and all of this. And actually in Europe, we have the only clinical study on alternative drive controls published. So we're kind of also pioneering in that direction. I would love to do more of this clinical studies also here in the US. But yeah, it's always changing. So you always have to adapt, make sure that your quality management systems are in place and all the protocols, do a lot of hardware testing and so on. So we made so many tests, I think, together with the devices to make sure that it's very durable, that it holds in different environments and so on. So we're very happy with the results.
Well, and for people who don't understand, the standards are not the same around the world. So when you sell in a different country, the EU and now England, which is no longer part of the EU, you've got to follow the standards of that country, that group of countries. It's not as simple as just getting approval, the regulations. You have to do it for every single country that you're in. Is that correct?
Correct. And then it doesn't stop there, right? You have the regulatory part and then you have the coverage part with the healthcare system and the insurances or the payers. So that is even more complicated, I would say, in Europe because we have so many, countries. In the US, it's also complicated, but you have a federal system, you have the state systems with Medicare and then Medicaid, which is a bit more it's a bit more summarized, I would say, or not as challenging as for example, in the UK, you have the NHS, which is a centralized healthcare system. And then, for example, if you go to the Netherlands, you have the municipality that takes care of your mobility, but you have the insurance providers that take care of all your home environment. So you always have to find your ways in order to get coverage for the user. But so far, we already got it covered in 10 European countries. Wow. And now it's also getting covered in the US by different providers.
Congratulations. I bring that
Thank you.
because I know that is no easy feat. It's not a matter of just submitting a proposal and getting it approved. It's submitting it and proving it and frequently having to go back and readjust, explain more, provide more information. So I want our audience to understand that it wasn't just discovery of this cool technology and then you were able to get it to people. It's going through all of the hoops that are required to get it into the hands of individuals or onto the faces of individuals who are going to benefit. That is a huge undertaking. And I underscore it because it is huge. A lot of times it's a huge roadblock for individuals getting these incredible technologies. So thank you for the hard work that you and your team continue to do to get it into the hands, get it on the faces of individuals who need that. So I want to go back to you because we started talking a little bit about you. So I'm curious, how many languages do you speak?
Probably around 5 languages, yeah.
5 languages? Okay. I thought you must speak at least 3, but you also lived in Australia for a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't count that as a language, though.
I was going to say that there's another language for you, right? That real cool Aussie language.
Yeah, right. No, so I did my postgraduate partly in Australia. I did 1 semester or some coursework around management, but then also started to write my thesis, which was around actually very fitting to our topic, because like we started the project with the technology like before my thesis topic, and then I decided to like try to look more into like business models for smart glass or AR, like augmented reality concepts, which I then used obviously to understand like how can we place such a solution, what kind of like models work, what kind of models don't work. So I did that in collaboration with my university in Australia and the university back at home in Munich.
Wow. How would you describe yourself?
I would say I'm very motivated. Passionate also about technology, passionate about stories of people that I get to know, and I'm able to adapt quickly to, I think, changing environments, which is very necessary in like startup environments where everything, can change in a second, and then you need to react and manage, the situation.
Right. What's a little known fact about you?
Little known fact, I would have said the language. Now I'm trying to think of another one, but probably like a lot of people, even if you think that you're from Europe, like most of the time, like, yeah, it's a surprise, like about the languages that I speak. And I really love languages. I'm really interested in like the roots. A lot of the Latin languages follow the same roots. So that's why I can speak a lot of them. But then I also once started to and I didn't count Japanese as a language that I learn right now, or I'm trying to learn, and I'm not so good at it yet. But like, yeah, I just like cultures, languages, and all of that. And maybe to add another fact, I really do enjoy diving. It's something that I learned very late. I was, I think, 26 or 27. Now I'm 34. So it's something new that I discovered when I was traveling in Australia, actually. And I enjoyed very much. So I do this
Scuba diving
every year. Yes.
Oh, now you say you did it late, but I was much older than you are now when I started scuba diving. It's a whole new world, isn't it?
It is. I love it.
Absolutely beautiful. And you did get to dive in Australia?
Yeah. We did dive at the Great Barrier Reef, and then like we went also in Asia and did some amazing places. And then I have now 2 buddies, which we try to always schedule, some time to get to some diving every year. Now 2 of us have babies, so we became dads, so it's a bit more challenging. But like we still try and we'll see where we go this year. We haven't decided upon a place right now.
Fantastic. Well, I'll be looking for pictures when you go diving. There's some absolute beauty under those waters. Claudiu, when you were 10 years old, what did you want to be, or what did you think you would be when you grew up?
Wow. Really good questions.
Thank you.
When I was 10, I think like every child, police officer. Thing that was like always like kind of like again probably like trying to help people, so there's maybe some pattern there. So that was really exciting. I think after high school, I became more interested, however, in like technology and computers. So I had a high school that was very early on, like giving students the opportunity to play around with programming languages. Very old language, Pascal was the name of the programming language. It's not being used anymore these days, I think. But that was my first like kind of like connection to technology and software development. And it kind of continued and then went into my university degree also.
So in all of this time, from the time you were young and moving all around to starting your own company, Could you ever have imagined that you would have been named one of Forbes 30 under 30?
Never, no.
When was that? And how did you find out?
Good questions. Good questions. Amazing. So I found out 2017, I think it was, and it was a huge surprise. It was this whole community got off the ground, I think around 2015, 16. And at that time, I didn't even know how I got in, but afterwards, I found out that my university actually nominated me. So it was the entrepreneurship center at our university where we were part of an incubator program. And they just saw, how much motivation we had for this project and how much we were sitting nights and nights in those incubation offices. So I think that was the reason. And obviously also just the impact that we had already started to generate. And I think that was the reason why the university then decided to nominate me. And when I found out, it was a huge surprise. It opened a lot of doors, amazing community, amazing people. And every now and then there are also some conferences that I got to take part where I also was able to present our solution. And actually at one of the Forbes conferences in Detroit, I don't remember, I think 2019, I bumped also into Ryan, who's a wheelchair user, who has also a motivational blog for children with no arms and no legs. And he tried it out and we've been ever since also in touch. And it's amazing, how you meet people and how you connect also and can do a lot of things together.
Yeah, 100%. You and I connected a couple years ago. I met you at a conference and was just so excited about what you were doing. And I'm so grateful that we've stayed in touch all this time because
Definitely.
I think it's so important that people hear about what you're doing. I want to go back to the Forbes 30 under 30 for a minute. You talked about how it opened some doors for you. How else, besides going to conferences, what else did that lead you to? What did that help you with?
Well, I have two versions, or not two versions, but two sides of the story. One side that I really feel very lucky about is that I met my wife at one of these conferences. So that was a big, big plus. So shout out to Forbes. They actually also know about it and so on. So
thank you, Forbes. They didn't know they were matchmakers. But I was going to ask you, by the way, how in the world did you find time to date and do all this stuff that you're doing? So you didn't really find time. Forbes did it for you. Matchmaking at Forbes.com.
We have to link them so they will see this.
That's right.
So that's one of the great highlights, I would say. The other highlights is just that I got to meet amazing people. I'm actually in New York City right now, and just on Sunday, I met with one of really good friends that I kept in touch from one of these conferences, and we've been helping out each other, just bouncing back ideas. He has also his own startup, so we always can, share experiences together. And I think also from Forbes onwards, it got me to a leadership program that I was able to take part in. And that leadership program made me also realize a lot of things. So I also in 2018 then started to work for a nonprofit in Munich. It's called the Global Shapers Community. And it's a community also initiated by the World Economic Forum. So there's a lot of things behind that. But the first and foremost, it's young people coming together and doing good for the world. So since 2018, I supported and later on also ran a project that helps refugees to learn computer skills, which I think it's still running until this day. I'm not part of the community anymore because at some point you become too old and they kicked you out.
Oh, gosh. Too old at 30-something. My goodness.
But it was kind of all connecting together the pieces. And then I still continue to volunteer here now and then. I mostly focus obviously on the business side right now because it's also creating a lot of impact. But now and then I still want to volunteer and help people with, education or whatever skills I can help for them to enable or to empower.
So if you did a class, what kind of educational class would you do?
So it's called Computerklasse, German word, so computer class in English. And we would start with the basics, really, because a lot of people refugees that came to Germany usually came from Africa, from Syria. And then a lot of times the people from Africa never had access to a computer. So we would start by explaining, how to turn it on,
Wow.
how to use the keyboard, how to use the mouse, how to do right click, left click, copy, paste, and all of these things. But the major hit was the typing class. I was able to find like a very interesting free online game where you get like really help with your typing, like trying to type with 10 fingers. And we would have, kids that were like 10 years old and like older adults like 40, 50 years old. And they were really like challenging each other because you could get like high scores. So that was kind of like the major hit in this class. And then ongoing continuation into like all of the Microsoft Office programs, to learn how to use Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and these things. When we then plugged this like basic course into another foundation that would then help people to get like jobs. So like we would be part of their foundational course to teach them. And then in the next stage, they would try to like find a job for them so that they can use those skills.
So not only are you the founder and CEO of a company, but you're also helping humanity. Now, it's a big deal. And I want people to know who you are, because you're not just starting a business to make a lot of money and retire. You're giving back, and you're also helping not even a new generation, yes, a new generation, but another group of people, multi-generation, to learn skills that are going to help them be productive, to help them make a living for themselves and their families. I think that is the ultimate form of giving back, is when you reach over and you help somebody else and you give them a hand. So, man, thank you for doing that.
I think it's important. I think, yeah, it's what, like you said, giving back, because we have so much privileges in our lives. So it's important to always like try to use those in a way of like letting other people also be part of it.
So when you wanted to start your company, did you have anybody telling you shouldn't do that? Just get a job where people are going to pay you and you don't have to worry about risk?
So my mom is very supportive and very loving and caring, but she was always the one that like didn't understand what we're doing. It was like too much like technology for her. Up to the point that one time she joined me for a conference and she met actual people and saw, what we're doing, and then she understood it more and more. But for her, she was always seeing me like working a lot and like trying to push things a lot. So she would always say like, good, you're doing great, but like maybe work for a corporate also, like it's maybe easier, you don't have to work so much and so on. So that was always fun interactions with my mom. But other than that, I think it was always challenging from the fact that we had no idea how to bring a medical device to market. So we had to discuss with a lot of experts, consultants, and so on. And we developed kind of a new category. In Germany, we got our own coverage code, or our own code for coverage with insurance, which didn't exist before. So we created that category from the ground up. So a lot of times there were like big question marks, not just with us, but also with external people. But like in the end, like everybody was also kind of motivated to help us to get this going.
When you're on the edge of technology and you're pushing those boundaries, you have to do those things. And that's how you know you're on the edge, right? Is when they have to create new categories for you. And again, that's not easy either. So again, kudos to you for getting that done, because that's a really hard thing to do. I want to ask you about any challenges or difficulties that you've just had in your life. So I think of sometimes some of the things that I've gone through in my life that I looked at as total disasters when they happened. And now as I'm older and I look back, what happened were those disasters moved me in a different direction. People have heard me say, I call them my personal propellants, because they propelled me in a new direction. Did you have anything like that in your life, that when it happened, you just thought, this is awful, but it was really something that moved you in a certain direction?
Well, I can say, I think there were many, and like you were saying, they propelled me always forward. So it was always, and I think this is kind of like a spiral, that the kind of like goes down, but always comes back up. So you always have those lows and then you go back up. Personally, I can give you two examples. Personally, like my challenge was always the language that I had to learn coming from Romania and learning the German language. It's not an easy language.
No.
Not at all. I was really bad in school. I was so happy when I was able to pick, like courses where it was all in English and I could, work in English, because like grammar was very challenging for me. So I barely made it into high school. And then from high school, I made it into university and I was like acing it. Like it was a whole new world. So from that time when I was like not able to learn so much the language, I think that I realized that I can still do things in my own way. And I can still, now, I don't think that you would be able to recognize that I'm not a German native speaker. Like it's really, you wouldn't hear it. But at that time it was hard, but it helped me to understand more what I want to be and what I want to do. And I think it pushed me also into the direction to be in Australia. I also was an undergrad. I studied in the US in San Diego for 6 months. So that kind of like pushed me more into the international direction. So I really see it more as propelling me into that direction. In the back to the business side of things, one of the biggest challenges that we had was definitely the whole phase around COVID. So when COVID hit, hospitals closed,
Right.
People stayed at home. People in wheelchairs are part of the risk group, so we couldn't risk anything. We didn't want to risk anything. What happened, however, it enabled us to focus again on, becoming creative with ourselves. So like part of our sales team became so creative that they did virtual calls from one guy didn't have place enough at home, so he went to the gym. He asked the gym if he could use the gym to do presentations from the gym. So that was really interesting.
Wow.
The other guy had the same issue and he went to the church. And inside the church, he was able to do the presentations. So that was really interesting. And our whole company became more digital. Our whole marketing became more digital. And we got really great results also by just like rethinking how we position ourselves and so on. So again, very challenging time, still managed to go through it and propelled us into like new dimensions of understanding more how like these kind of things can work as well in a digital way.
That's incredible, because COVID for a lot of companies was very hard. And for some organizations, it meant they lost business. Some of them even shut down. But I have heard from other people like you that it really made them focus on doing business in a different way, and even developed their services and their products in a way that's helped them grow. So having gone from Romania to Germany to the United States, correct me if I'm wrong, but would you have been considered an immigrant?
Yes. So in Germany, yes. In the US, I guess, what's my status here? I'm not an immigrant in the US, but I do have a business visa for 5 years. Immigration always has to do also probably with like getting residency and so on. So right now, we're still debating where to reside, actually, because of our new 4-month-old son. So we're still trying to figure that out. But when we came from Romania to Germany, we were considered immigrants.
And how was that? Because you were, like you said, you were very, very young. What was that like?
I think for me as a kid, it was tough because of the language barrier. So like my mom also decided that at home we wouldn't be speaking Romanian, but we would try to speak German all the time. And I think that greatly helped me to develop the language and to catch up and do things. But like I mentioned, like school was always a challenge. So I barely made it really into high school. I had to do an extra test to get into high school, which worked out everything in the end. So, and I think the bigger challenge was for my mom, who like her degree back in Romania was not acknowledged. So she had to work, factory jobs and do 2 jobs at the same time. Then she did waitress, like being a waitress in a restaurant, being a cook and so on, which actually is interesting because she developed like kind of a passion for cooking and especially for Italian cooking. So there was actually, this is a fun fact, there was a phase where we had our own Italian restaurant for a while.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
gave it up at some point because it became too much work and so on. But like, it was also an interesting experience.
So when your mom came to Germany, could she speak the German language?
No.
So your mom came with 2 children?
Yes.
To a new country where she didn't know the language, where her degree wasn't acknowledged. That had to have been extremely hard. I'm starting to see where you get this passion for learning and doing, like, wow. Much respect to your mom for doing that. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. And also to worry about your children and how they would be received and how they would communicate. Your mom must be a really incredible woman.
She is. Maybe you should interview her next time.
I feel like I should. I think there's got to be an incredible story there. I can't relate to being an immigrant, but interestingly enough, I went and visited where a lot of my family is from, in Hungary. And when I got there, when people found out my dad's 100% Hungarian, so I was 50% Hungarian and couldn't speak the language, they were very disappointed in me and expressed that. So I asked, why was that not passed down? And interestingly, it was very similar to what you said, maybe a little bit different. They did not allow their children to speak Hungarian at home, but mostly because they didn't want them discriminated against. So, it's not something we always think about when we think about people who immigrate from other countries, the challenge of the language, of the culture, but also of acceptance. And look at what this world would be missing out on if we didn't have you developing this technology, which is giving people an independence they may never have known before. Thank you again. I keep saying thank you, but thank you again for choosing what you've chosen and just pursuing it. Given that, how do you stay motivated? There have been so many challenges in your life, personally and professionally. How do you stay motivated in the tough times?
Personally, I think it's family. One, first and foremost, the family that my wife is amazing and she's doing amazing things at the same time. Fun fact, her family is also from Hungary.
Oh, interesting. Now I have to talk to her too.
And so family is I think my personal balance, and on the professional side, it's really those interactions that I get to have from time to time. So whenever I'm out and get to meet people, I think that's what gives me the biggest motivation. Just like today with that person that didn't want to let go of the glasses and was so excited. And we had a couple of other user tests yesterday also a person that, so I think it's really those persons that made me super motivated to then try even harder or continue to try to improve the solution even more and add more things. One thing that I forgot to say is also that we just added voice activation to the glasses. So right now, some people cannot use their voice, so they would use their head functions to do all these things. But some people that can still use their voice, they can also navigate with their voice to the different functions. So it's something new also that enables people more and more and makes it more easier for them. So it's these things that we want to continue to think about and how to improve and how to help more people with it.
That is extremely exciting. If you could tell your 5 or 6-year-old self anything, knowing what you know now, knowing what you went through, what would you tell your younger self just getting to a strange land and having to adapt to everything that's different?
From time to time, it will be hard, but enjoy the journey more and celebrate more and celebrate the achievements more, because there's a lot.
I love that. Well, I have a feeling, my friend, there's going to be more. So note to self, enjoy those achievements as they come.
Yes.
Do you have a mantra, a go-to mantra that you think about during those tough times when you need to be motivated, or just reminded that what you're doing is important?
It's a bit hard to explain, but I always think that you should live life by choice and not by chance, even though there is this notion of destiny kind of, that I feel like I've been going on a path, but I still believe that, you need to make the right choices, or to make the choices in general to go on that path that you want to, even if it goes, left and right, up and down. It's your choices that make you go on that path. So if you don't choose to go on that or walk on that path, I think, don't let everything, it won't happen, right? So you need to choose every day that you want to do this.
If there's anybody listening right now that's inspired by what you've done, but feels like, I couldn't do that, it's just because he's so smart, I could never do that, what would you say to him?
Pick up the phone and call me.
Okay.
I'm happy to have a conversation and dig deeper. I've done this also over the past years with many different people that, had ideas or went on the same journey, same industry, or even different industries. So I'm always happy to help and be a soundboard or some kind of brainstorm partner to go over the thoughts and doubts. And in the end, I think it's good to doubt, but it's better to choose to act. So if you want to do something and you still, need some kind of push, I'm happy to give the push.
It doesn't surprise me that you say that, and I love that. Last question for you. Who has been the most influential in your life? Why? And do they know it?
Well, I think you can guess it, right? I guess the single source of my whole life is, I think, my mother. I think I have to thank her for a lot.
And what's her name?
Felicia.
Felicia?
Yes.
Okay. And does she know?
Yeah, she knows. She's proud. She's super proud. She also got to meet her first grandson a couple of weeks ago for the first time. So she's super, super duper proud of that also. And I think I'm also really happy to say that I know that she always got my back, is really my wife. So those two women are really very important people in my life that I cannot imagine to be without them.
Oh, that's wonderful that you know it. And it's even better that they know that. Claudiu, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise, very much.